Okay. So we got one final story in the day, and this is the money story. This is the one everybody's been waiting for. So we'll get right to it. So we have a film coming out next month. Okay, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But that's not it. That's not what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today. Believe it or not, it's Superman Legacy. So here's the thing. According to Variety, okay, James Gunn's Superman will have, quote, quite a different feel or tones from Guardians, the director says. Making a good Marvel movie after Endgame is hard, which, and I'll get to, and we'll talk about as we go along through this. James Gunn has written the script for his upcoming Superman Legacy and is currently putting together a casting list and audition material. He also is about to embark on a worldwide press tour for his final movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The writer director recently told Rolling Stone that his Superman movie isn't going to feel like a Guardians movie. I've learned so much from making these movies, Gunn said about his Marvel franchise, but it's not like Superman is going to have the same exact vibe as a Guardians movie. It's actually quite different. What's the tones of Gunn's Superman Legacy is remains to be seen. The tentpole is focusing on a younger iteration of the superhero than the last one on the big screen, played by Henry Cavill. After his Guardians Volume 3 press duties are over, Gunn will transition full time into his new gig as a co CEO of the new DC universe, which will include films including Supergirl and Batman and Robin. I really want Marvel to keep making good movies, he said about his exit. I think it's really hard to, in the wake of the blip. There, there's this worldwide universal event that happens, and in truth, everybody will be stark raving mad at this point. So it's hard to write stories in the wake of that, which is why Guardians has been easier because they're all set outside of it a little bit. The blip, of course, is referring to the climax of Avengers Infinity War, where Thanos snapped his fingers and half the population vanished. Of course, the missing population came back in Endgame, and we had that big third act. The end of Endgame posed a different challenge for Gunn as it concluded with the Guardians members linking up with Chris Hemsworth's Thor. Marvel chose to have that ending in editing, Gunn said, and I didn't think it was going to be there. Endgame came right out after, and I decided to do a Guardians again. So I didn't have much to say in what was in Endgame. And then it came out, so I was like, what am I going to do? Fortunately for Gunn, Taika Waititi's Thor: Love and Thunder quickly did away with Thor and the Guardians teaming up indefinitely. Had his own film, leaving the door open for Gunn to write Volume 3, without Thor as originally intended. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige told me Taika's going to do Thor, so we'll have the Guardians in it. He's like, thank goodness. To be honest, Thor was never going to be in this movie. Tiger took a bullet for me because I was not going to have him in here. I was just going to start up and there's no Thor. With his Guardians franchise coming to an end and a whole new DC universe about to begin, worried about superhero fatigue? Mm. I think there is such a superhero fatigue. I think there is such a thing as superhero fatigue, Gunn told Rolling Stone. I think it doesn't have anything to do with superheroes. It has to do with the kind of stories that get to be told. And when you lose your eye on the ball, which is character, we love Superman, we love Batman, we love Iron Man because they're incredible characters that we have in our hearts. And if it's just a bunch of nonsense on screen, it gets really boring. I get fatigued by both spectacle films, by the grind of not having an emotional, grounded story, Gunn said. It doesn't have anything to do with what the superhero movies are or are not. If you don't have a story at the base of it, it's just watching things bash each other, no matter how clever those bashing things are. No matter how clever the designs are and the visual effects are, it just gets fatiguing. And I think it's very, very real. So, of course, Guardians comes out May 5th, and Superman Legacy is slated for a July 11th release date in 2025. Now, um, let me talk to you a couple things. So let me get to a couple comments here. Um, he said, Coco says, yes, I forgot his name, but my dad would always pick the guy with 1,000 arms. Okay. Yeah, I know exactly. So he was from India. Um, I don't remember off the top of my head. If anybody in the comments wants to chime in, but I do know who you're referring. He spit fire out of his mouth, I think. So, do you think? Do you guys in Real Talks have a source, or do you guys find your information from the roundup? So, I take a lot of my information comes from the trades because I trust them. Um, so Variety, THR, the Wrap. Now that's to say, I actually have a couple of people that I speak to. Um, so I know a couple. So Jeremy Fowler, for example, is from the Wrap. He does fantastic work on the Wrap. Um, Kit Stone, she's a freelancer, but she's a fantastic journalist. Destiny Jackson, she's actually at the Oscars. She works for Deadline. So I do have people, we talk about, and I have, Matthew Anderson, whom we've seen on the show, I'm sure, um, for the Oscars and the SAGs and everything else. So I have a couple of sources, but mostly for the most part, it's the trades. But yeah, so that being said, this is interesting. This is going to be a fun Superman movie because this is going to. So I'm going to equate it to this. This is going to be like the Batman was. Whenever we had seen Batman over and over and over, okay, we had always seen a Batman that or had been um he was already established, right? We had never seen like a Matt Reeves Batman that was just starting out. And that's what made the Robert Patterson movie, I was watching it the other day, amazing. Okay. Um, Nonetheless, this is going to be a different Superman. This is going to be a completely different, a younger, more balanced Superman. He isn't going to have been Superman for, up teen years. So he's going to be learning and doing things. I think this is going to be fun. He is right about one thing. Well, he's right about a lot of things, but one of the things he's right about, okay, is when he talks about superhero fatigue. It's not the stories, because look, we all love Batman, we all love Superman, we all love Iron Man. But I will drive it home to the day I go, okay? It's about story. You can have the greatest actors in the world in a horrible story, and they can only produce the product as well as possible. On the flip side of the coin, you can have the greatest story in the world and really bad actors, and it's not going to be that good. The story is so vitally important because even James saying the quote that he did, okay, I get fatigued by spectacle films, by the grind. Or he says, basically, because these are incredible characters that we have in our hearts. I get fatigued by most super spectacle films. If it doesn't have anything to do with the superhero movies, if you don't have a story at the base of it, you're just watching things bash each other, no matter how clever those things are, and no matter how good the visual effects is. And he's so right. He is so right because I don't want to see a story that is just, rock'em sock'em. I don't want to see rock'em sock'em robots. I want to see something of substance. And that's what I think this is going to be. I really do. I think it's going to be something that it's quality. And it's all going to be depending on the casting and who they get. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But Coco says the Batman was so good with its tone and everything. I'm just imagining how the Superman movie will play out. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because the thing is that it's one of those things that this is going to be a completely different version and a completely different idea. Um, One of the things that Batman did so well, is not rehash the whole Martha Wayne and Bruce or Thomas Wayne death. You know, um, when you're able to do something like that, it's going to be great. I really truly believe this is going to be a fantastic movie. And, of course, we have this coming out, and we've got, a couple other movies coming out in 2025. But this one, to have it be a different tone, that's the key thing. Because we don't want a dark Superman. So it will be curious. It'll be very interesting to see. The biggest thing I'll say is this: casting. When you're talking about casting, okay, when you're talking about casting a movie, it has to be that perfect person or close to it, because you write it and you do it, and it's so important. I think this is going to be great. And the last thing I'll say on this is this: it's slated right in July. That is the cream of the crop when it comes to um, times. That's just because it's right after. It's July. It's right after the 4th of July. So everybody is going to be going to see this. Now, was it a coincidence? Yeah. I mean, that was his father's birthday, but yeah, this looks so good. I can't wait. As we get more stories and everything else, I will definitely bring this to you on the roundup and in future shows. Okay,